Welcome to our 3-month countdown and announcement of our 2022 official theme for the 25th National March for Life in Canada. It's great to have you here today with us. My name is Matt Wojciechowski, and I'm the Vice President of Campaign Life Coalition and a member of the organizing March for Life Committee. I'm here today with my co-host for today's presentation, Josie Lutke, who is the youth coordinator for the Campaign Life Coalition. How's it going, Josie?
It is going well. I am so pumped for this year's March for Life, and I'm so excited for you all to learn about what the theme is and to hear your feedback on it too.
Yeah, it's been a work in progress. We've been, every year pretty much, as soon as the National March for Life comes to an end, we probably take a week break, and then 2 weeks later, we sit down again and we start planning for the next year. So it's been a lot of work. But we're very happy that you are joining us today. We have a great show lined up. We're hoping to keep this to 1 hour. So we'll take you back to some highlights from last year's March. We'll give you some inside scoop on what we've been working on so far for this upcoming March for Life. We'll chat with some other members of the National Organizing Committee. And of course, we will announce the official theme and premiere the official promo for this year's March for Life.
Thanks, Matt. So I might be a little bit biased because I was the MC for last year's rally on Parliament Hill, but I thought it was an incredible experience. I was so happy to be back in Ottawa. I'm sure that those who were with me also really enjoyed the experience. I think our theme, You Are Not Alone, really resonated with people, and it was really nice to not be alone. I also thought that the virtual elements of the march really enhanced the experience as well. So why don't we take a look now at the highlights from last year's 2021 National March for Life.
You are the voice of 100,000 victims killed by abortion every year, and even more killed by euthanasia.
I think in the crowd, we're giving out roses, and each one is for each baby's whose life will be lost today.
For over 50 years here in Canada, but we've come to the point where killing innocent human beings is essential. Surely then, standing for life, marching for life is even more essential. Woohoo is right!
You call us to be a voice for those who have no voice. You call us to stand up for one who cannot plead their case themselves. You call us to protect the weak. You call us to care for the helpless. You call us to protect life.
Welcome to the 2021 National March for Life. It is a privilege that we're able to hold one today.
300 babies a day are killed in the womb in Canada under their watch. What are we going to do about that? Why does it continue? Why is it, as mentioned earlier, why is it that abortion is an essential service? How in the world, who came up with that idea? Why are we allowing that to happen? Are we just going to sing a little louder?
What allowed me to finally be confident in my decision of adoption, or life, was not being shamed into it by words, pictures, or the stigma. It was professional counseling that I received that continued throughout my whole pregnancy and months after the birth.
To my own baby boy who is well on his way, I promise you are not alone. Like every child rightly deserves, Mommy is here to protect you, to love you, to say with the love of a mother, I am here. You are not a right. You are not a choice. And you are not something unhuman. You are perfectly and wonderfully made by a God who sees you in His image and in His likeness. And together with your dad and big brother, we promise you so many things.
I now stand here today with an amazing relationship with my birth daughter and her adoptive parents. I have an amazing marriage with the man who was the birth father. And we're also expecting a baby in November, and I can have a happy pregnancy the second time around.
To be a mother is to receive the weak, the defenseless child within. To be a mother is to care for the little one, to protect the child, to bring the child to the light of day. You are not alone. You are not isolated or without aid or help. There are many, many, many who want to help you to choose life.
Freedom, they talk about autonomy. It's a lie. It's not about freedom or autonomy. That's just a lie. That's just a sales pitch. It's about killing people at the most vulnerable time of their life. That's what's happening. That's what it's about. It's about denying proper care. It's about abandoning people at their time of need. That's what it's about. By showing love and care, sometimes we can make a great difference in someone's life. And this is our challenge. Our challenge also is to turn around the culture of death with what? A culture of love. You know, this is what we have to show, is how we care for the other. This is what is dependent on us to do in order to change this world.
Pray for the repentance and the conversion of all those involved in the abortion and euthanasia industry. Let us pray in thanksgiving for all those who have worked so hard to make this event possible. Know that we are not alone, that we are mercifully loved by a God who is definitively with us to the end of time and who desires our liberation from our enslavement to sin.
Through this gathering today, see our hearts and hear our cry for all those victims who only wanted to live. We pray in the powerful name of your Son, Jesus. Amen and amen.
It is your activism, your prayers that make the change that we're looking for, the positive change that changes our culture from one of the culture of death to the culture of life.
We are pro-life and we will always be pro-life.
Situation. They talk about the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030 and how we have to change all of society in order to be sustainable. How is it sustainable that we're killing 300 babies a day? That's unsustainable morally. That's unacceptable. That's got to change. We need a great reset today. That's what's got to be reset. That's why we're here. We've got to change that, and it starts right now.
I want to encourage you in your own way to not compromise, to stand true to conviction, and never, ever back down. It's okay to be nice. It's okay to be polite. But don't back down, even if it feels like you're all alone.
Even a pandemic couldn't sway the resolve of organizers to bring a full slate of pro-life events to the nation. All in all, 2021 saw the production and acquisition of over 30 hours of content, which reached over 400,000 people on our various platforms. These included Life on Film, a series of free online screenings with some of the best life-affirming films, along with interviews with the filmmakers.
We will hear arguments in Roe against Wade.
A candlelight vigil which featured prayers, inspirational praise and worship music, along with powerful testimonials.
My name is Gabrielle, and I am an adoptee.
The official Rally and March for Life on Parliament Hill, broadcast on EWTN, reaching millions of viewers in Canada and the USA, and streaming online through EWTN.com and marchforlife.ca. 2021 also featured a virtual Rose Dinner with roundtable discussion on the pro-life movement in the cancel culture, with special guest Kristen Hawkins from Students for Life America, along with a prestigious panel of speakers. The special was also broadcast on EWTN.
This isn't really something we like to do. It's part of our mission field, and we have to do it.
The National Mass for Life and EWTN special from Notre Dame Cathedral in Ottawa, along with regional Masses for Life from across the country.
To be true agents of change in a culture of death, we truly need to abide in Christ.
And a national online youth conference with an impressive roster of guest speakers, including Will Witt from PragerU.
I think a lot of the issue with abortion is because conservatives and people who believe in the pro-life stance have given it up and don't do anything about it.
Defending life at all stages, from conception until natural death, we are the National March for Life. May 7th to 13th, 2022 in Ottawa, and online at marchforlife.ca.
What a great video. And I just remember being there last year. We didn't get the masses that we usually get because of the pandemic and the lockdowns. But nonetheless, the people who did show up, it was such an intimate experience. It was such a it had such a grassroots feel to it. And even all the digital content that we produced. We produced over 30 hours of pro-life content leading up to the march and following the march as well. And I guess that's one of those things that happens during a lockdown. We have to be more creative and we have to use new tools in getting the pro-life message out to as many Canadians as possible. 2 years ago, we launched a pro-life film festival called Life on Film, featuring pro-life films and documentaries and dramas. Because we received such good and positive feedback from all the people who watch these films, we've decided to continue Life on Film this year. And we are currently working on an amazing lineup of films, some of which haven't yet been released. To talk more about this, we'll bring in filmmaker Kevin Dunn from Dunn Media, whose team has helped us immensely in organizing the digital, the virtual elements of the National March for Life for many years now, including as the Canadian producer for the Eternal Word television network. Kevin continues to produce EWTN's broadcast of the rally and march in Ottawa, bringing the march to millions of viewers across Canada and the world. So Kevin, it's great to have you with us today. Tell us a bit about last year's experience.
Thanks, Matt and Josie. Great to be working with you again. And, you know, as a filmmaker, it's always a joy for me to chat and to interview and to be with other filmmakers from around the world who, like me, revere the sanctity of life. You know, we don't get to see these films promoted in mainstream media. We kind of all know why. But this, and I got to give kudos to the National March for Life and Campaign Life for keeping on with this, because this is a great opportunity to hear those stories. Because you know what, this isn't necessarily it's definitely a movement, but these are about stories. These are the stories of real people who understand that life begins at conception and ends at natural death, and to muddy with that, oh man, well, that is where the drama takes place. And so these real stories come to the screen. Last year was amazing. Matt, you remember Roe versus Wade? That was quite a film. We had Nick Loeb. What did you think of that film?
Yeah, that film is, I really believe that the quality of pro-life cinema has just increased over the years. And it's just very good production quality, great acting. And of course, the storyline is it's something that the world needs to hear.
Yeah, it was interesting that at this year's March for Life in Washington, D.C., they were saying this might be the last year where we don't have Roe v. Wade hanging over our heads in such a way. So that was incredible to have that film last year in anticipation of this year. And then, of course, Divided Hearts of America, our friend Jason Jones from Movie to Movement. What a powerful, powerful movie that was. Matt, any thoughts on that film?
Yeah, that was, I've seen a lot of pro-life documentaries out there over the years. And when I watched The Divided Hearts of America, it was one of those films that it's like, there's all these new things you can learn from these documentaries, right? There's so much information that's surfacing nowadays, and it's information that people need to hear.
Yeah. Gosnell, breaking down Gosnell, took clips from the film, Ann and Phelim, the producers of the film, who actually have been part of the National March for Life and been up here as speakers. Wow, what an incredible film that was. And again, kudos to the National March for Life for bringing them up here. And then Hush with Drew Martin, a little bit of an older film, but again, the tenets, the apologetics of what happens during an abortion and how it harms women. These things remain, and they need to be brought to the forefront. And that's why these films are so important. Blood Money with Roman Jaquez, the producer, came on board. All of these films really, really underscore the sanctity of life. And this year, Matt, I'm really hoping that we're gonna have another blockbuster lineup of films. Starting with, we've already confirmed, I Lived on Parker Avenue. This is a story of an adoptee, David Scotton, who was seconds away from being aborted, and how many years later he meets his birth mother in a very, very moving reunion. I've already spoken to David, happy to be part of this year's lineup. We're going to be interviewing him. They're actually making a motion picture about this, like a full-up drama. And so we're going to be talking about that. Allison's Choice, the story of a teenager who's pregnant, alone. She has an interesting encounter at an abortion clinic with someone who wants to save her baby. And again, another very moving film. And I'm currently speaking with the producers of The Matter of Life, a journey to unravel the complexity of the abortion issue through science, philosophy, history, and powerful personal stories. The film answers hard questions and proves hope for the future. And that film, The Matter of Life, is being released in May. So we're going to hopefully have a screening of it here on Life on Film. The Order of Rights is another film that we're looking to acquire. And speaking with the producers now, the story centers around Emma Stein, a pregnant single girl who has been advised by her mother to have an abortion. Despite the objection of the child's father, Ethan Carpenter, and his promise to help her, she decides to go ahead with the procedure. But when Ethan and his family file a lawsuit on behalf of the child's right to life, things take a dramatic turn. I've already seen the screener for this movie. I'm really hoping, they're very excited about the possibility of working with us. Either way, we'll see how things roll with this. And these are great movies to be looking forward to this year. And we hope to bring them to you with the National March for Life, Life on Film. Matt, what do you think of that?
Yeah, it's exciting. And we always try to schedule these films as a lead up to the March for Life to get people excited. But we also premiere these films on a Sunday night, because we believe that as a family, you can come together, you can watch a movie, you can talk about these issues, right? Because it really triggers a lot of good, fruitful conversation within the family. So hopefully we'll get all the films, and we will be announcing a schedule of when we will be releasing these films. Once again, all these movies will be premiered on youtube.com/March for Life Canada and marchforlife.ca. Kevin, thanks for giving us an update on Life on Film. But also, I want to talk about EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, in association with Dun Media, is pleased to partner once again with the National March for Life and the broadcast of it. EWTN, they're amazing people. They have been covering the March for Life for almost 10 years. And when the legacy media and the corporate media refuses to cover the march, they're always there with feet on the ground, with cameras on the ground, interviewing people, covering all the speakers, and they just do an amazing job. So tell us a bit more about the relationship with EWTN and what we can expect for viewers.
Yeah, well, my company, Dun Media, produces a number of productions, films for EWTN Global Catholic Network. And this is a network that broadcasts into millions of homes around the world. The March every year into Canada and the US. Again, millions of homes. So and of course on EWTN.com. And it's a really, as you say, Matt, it's a great relationship. They are at the forefront of the pro-life movement from a broadcast and online standpoint, and we couldn't be more grateful. So obviously the productions that I do at Dun Media fit right in with what they're doing. So it's a great partnership, and of course, to be able to bring that to the National March for Life is something that I hold very dear, because, as you say, we're not hearing it from the mainstream media. So this year, EWTN going to cover you're going to hear about these things coming up, more details with the committee, I understand, but we've already committed with EWTN to broadcast the Rally and March, the National Mass for Life, from Ottawa, and the Candlelight Vigil and Regional Masses for Life. We're going to show some highlights on EWTN, and whatever happens with the Rose Dinner and our youth conference. Again, highlights. We're hoping that we're going to bring all those to a global audience. So a very big special thanks to our friends at EWTN in Birmingham, Alabama, who broadcast all around the world these great programs being produced by the National March for Life. I'm just thrilled to be part of it again this year through my company, Dun Media. And Matt, Josie, let's roll.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I just like to echo our thanks to you, to our viewers. Just know that Kevin Dunn is an indispensable part of our team. He's involved behind the scenes. You might not always see him, but he's there, and he's helping make sure that the march happens every single year. I'd also like to express our gratitude to EWTN for covering the march year after year. Again, your partnership is so appreciated and valued. So another way that we keep the spirit of the March for Life alive, despite these lockdowns and despite the distance, is through, again, these very valuable partnerships with religious leaders, not just pastors, but also members of the laity. So one of the groups that we partner with continuously is the Knights of Columbus. They are stalwart in standing for life, defending the vulnerable. So one of the events that we have planned for this year is a national pro-life roundtable in defense of life. I will be one of the members of that roundtable, as well as Alex Schattenberg, who's the executive director of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition. So we will be talking about abortion, we'll be talking about euthanasia. We'll have a couple of other guests on the pro-life roundtable with us to talk about their perspectives. And this will be the event kind of kicking off the National March for Life Week. So it'll be on Saturday, May 7th. And this is a good opportunity to sort of inform yourselves before you actually march, to find out, what is the current state of our nation in respect to these life issues? What can you do? What should we be paying attention to? So we have the National Pro-Life Roundtable. In addition to that, I think one of the ways we've really expanded in the past couple of years, really made this a national March for Life, is by recruiting prayer services and regional masses for life from across the country. We've partnered with many different archdioceses and dioceses to do so. So to speak more about that is our national capital organizer, Debbie Duval. So Debbie, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Josie. Thanks very much. It's thrilling to be able to finally talk about all our plans for our 25th National March for Life Week. And as you were mentioning, prayer is a key component to changing the hearts and the minds of the population and politicians. We need to pray and act. So the March for Life, of course, needs to be lifted up in prayer by bishops and pastors and ministers all across the country. We have to come together as a people of faith and who all share our pro-life mission. Last year, we had Masses for Life all across Canada and several prayer services. It would be really wonderful if all faiths across this country could organize services praying for an end to abortion. And let us know, and we'll make sure to include the prayer services and masses in our official March for Life schedule and on our website. Whether you have an online service or an in-person, please just let us know so we can promote and just pray for the end to abortion. Here's a look at the Masses for Life across the country from last year.
Once again, from sea to shining sea, people are gathered across our country to stand up publicly so as to tell the world, even to shout to it about the beauty and the dignity of every human life.
In dioceses across the country, our shepherds are standing for life.
We can say without a doubt that there have been thousands of young human beings consigned to sit by the wayside unnoticed, who have died and will die anonymously.
Some think abortion is their only choice because they have no one to turn to for help. At the other end of the spectrum, we know some contemplate euthanasia and assisted suicide out of fear of facing the end of their lives. Feeling alone and unloved is a crisis in our time.
The National March for Life and EWTN are pleased to support our Canadian bishops by bringing the National Mass for Life and regional masses to the airwaves and on marchforlife.ca.
The heart of the pro-life movement is love for Jesus, love for women, for pregnant mothers, love for our beloved seniors, especially those who are sick or dying, who are feeling afraid or isolated. Love for the children in the womb who are dehumanized by our society today and are the most defenseless and most vulnerable because they have no voice.
This is a call to begin planning for your own diocesan Mass for Life, to pray for an end to the culture of death in our country.
Opposition has a miraculous effect of growing spine in those who do believe, growing a spine in people of faith. The vocation of Catholics here in our world is always the same. Make disciples of all nations, including our own. Surrounded as we all are today by fake news and indeed downright lies, the media often refers to abortion as the termination of a fetus. Such language dehumanizes the unborn child and deliberately misleads the public into believing that abortion is not the killing of a baby. We have sadly reached the point when the deliberate killing of another person is even called end-of-life care. What a travesty.
Over the coming weeks, representatives from the National March for Life will be reaching out to your diocese to participate in a Mass for Life.
Contemplons le bon pasteur. Apprenons à mettre en premier la valeur de la vie et à servir la vie, la dignité de tout être humain.
Let us renew our involvement wherever we live and to partner with members of our parish or other faith groups and organizations to continue lobbying our elected officials about these matters.
Thank you to our Canadian bishops, priests, and religious brothers and sisters who stand with us for life.
It's so inspiring to hear from our shepherds who are tasked with leading us about the value of life. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing the homilies and sermons from pastors this year as they reflect on our theme, which we will be announcing. Another really important aspect of the March for Life is our candlelight vigil, in which we're praying for the victims of abortion. Again, you'll notice that prayer is a huge part of the March for Life, and that's because we can't do this without God. So in case you haven't been to a candlelight vigil before, it consists of course, prayer, also a lot of praise and worship music, and testimonies, moving testimonies from ordinary Canadians, our supporters, who have been touched by a crisis pregnancy, who have experienced abortion or maybe adoption, and they just share those stories with us and remind us about how this issue does affect all of us in very intimate ways. And so we definitely hope to have an in-person candlelight vigil at the Human Rights Monument, as we previously have. But because of the lockdowns, because of the restrictions, we're not 100% sure that will happen. So there is a possibility that we will have it online again, as we have in the past couple of years. But I want to assure you, if you haven't watched those programs, they're still available online. They're still very, very special. So either way, I promise you it's going to be a very powerful experience, but do stay tuned for updates on that. Matt, do you have any other thoughts on the candlelight vigil?
Yeah, thanks for that, Josie. I absolutely love the candlelight vigil. I believe that every year that I've gone to the March for Life, that night before, the eve of the march, to kind of ground ourselves in prayer and kind of refocus ourselves on God, and just admit to ourselves that ultimately this is a spiritual battle. Yes, we got to go into the streets. We got to proclaim the truth about abortion. We got to defend the sacredness of life. We got to get involved in politics and elect pro-life candidates into the various levels of government. But ultimately, if we don't pray and if we don't surrender all of this, all our work to our Heavenly Father, then I don't think it's going to work out for us. So we really have to pray. I love the candlelight vigil. Last year's vigil, we had some amazing testimonials, some really powerful witnesses that were given, that were shared with us. So if you haven't watched them, go to youtube.com/March for Life Canada. Watch the candlelight vigil from last year. It was really beautiful. So again, like Josie said, hopefully we'll have an in-person one. If not, we'll do a virtual vigil again, or we might just do both. We'll see.
So as youth coordinator, I have a lot of interactions with youth daily. I know when I was in high school and university myself, I faced a lot of opposition for my views, and it is so much worse these days. But what's so inspiring is that the pro-life youth of today, they face that challenge head on. They have taken up leadership positions in their schools, in their churches, in their communities. They are determined, despite the obstacles that they face, they're going to get that pro-life message out there. The President Emeritus of Campaign Life Coalition, Jim Hughes, he's fond of saying that the youth are not the future of the pro-life movement. They're the present. And that is so, so true. Whenever you go to the March for Life, you see that the crowd is comprised of a majority of youth. And so I'd like to mention that we do have a March for Life youth committee who advises on everything. We're putting together a really strong committee for this year to plan for the various March for Life events, including the youth conference. And one of the members of our committee is my highly capable assistant youth coordinator, Maeve Roche. She was also organizing the trip to the Washington, D.C. March for Life. She put a lot of effort into that. Unfortunately, just days before the trip, she did test positive for COVID. So she's been a real trooper. She wasn't able to go, but I'd still like to turn it over to her to talk about the experience of the 7 youth who went. And then we'll start talking about our own March for Life events, especially the youth conference. But Maeve, why don't you tell us about their experience first?
Thank you, Josie. I'm super glad to serve on the National March for Life Organizing Committee again this year. Yes, just a couple Fridays ago on January 21st, CLC sent a delegation of 7 young people across the border to stand in solidarity with American pro-lifers at the 49th Annual March for Life in Washington, D.C. This trip was made possible by our sponsor, Niagara Region Right to Life, and CLC's generous donors. An estimated 150,000 people were able to attend the March for Life this year, which was an excellent turnout for quite a monumental year. With the pending Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization case that was brought to the Supreme Court in 2021, there are signals of hope for the repeal of the notorious Roe versus Wade abortion decision that permits abortion in the United States. So our delegation of young people were given the opportunity to attend the March for Life rally at the National March for Life at the National Mall prior to the commencement of the March for Life itself, whereby they heard powerful testimonies from leaders of the American pro-life movement. And following the rally, they stood outside the Canadian Embassy to demonstrate that despite what the world might think, Canada's pro-life movement is thriving. We are a growing movement. The youth attendees cheered on our American counterparts while holding Canadian flags as they marched by. And along with the ability for youth delegates to be present at the March for Life, they were also granted the opportunity to attend the Students for Life of America's Pro-Life Summit, which is fashioned to equip the next generation of pro-lifers with the tools they need to be strong activists and to make meaningful change pertaining to the restoration of the sanctity of human life in society. This conference allows for pro-lifers to attend a variety of educational sessions run by prominent pro-life speakers in order to inspire young people to take up the fight, just like our own youth conference held in Ottawa. The central purpose of our Washington trip is to invoke inspiration and a sense of global solidarity with pro-life brothers and sisters across borders. As the March for Life in the United States is one of the largest pro-life demonstrations in the world due to the large American population, we ask our youth delegates to bring home that fervor to ameliorate our own National March for Life and youth conference. Any opportunity for young people to be surrounded by a group of like-minded individuals, all standing up for and working towards a common goal, is incredibly beneficial for the instillment of motivation to take up their own crosses and defend life in their country, communities, and schools.
Thanks for that, Maeve. Thanks for that wonderful report, and thank you for organizing a trip to Washington. Yeah, I was watching the EWTN broadcast of that event a few weeks ago, and then one of my favorite videos that comes out of the Washington March for Life every year is the time-lapse video that is put out by Students for Life of America, capturing the thousands of people marching their way up to Supreme Court. It's just, I love seeing that video. It's just so inspiring to see so many people. And of course, no one ever really, the mainstream media doesn't really cover that angle of it. So, kudos to Students for Life of America. And with the help of social media, we are able to get those videos out to the masses and to the public. And the reason why I love this video actually is because the first time I saw it, maybe 5-6 years ago, the March for Life committee, we thought we should do the same thing in Ottawa. So what ended up happening in 2018, and Josie, I'm not sure if you remember this, but we specifically put up a camera guy in one of the, at the top floor of one of the hotels along the route of the March for Life in Ottawa. And as the march took off and we had tens of thousands of people, I believe we had 25,000 people that year. It was our largest march for life ever. They started marching and we're all getting excited because we're finally going to get this footage that we can put up on social media and share with the world. And what ended up happening is a bunch of these self-declared communist kids ended up blocking the route. So in order to, keep the peace, the cops rerouted the march down a different street, which was literally 1 block away from where our camera guy was. And of course, well, we never got the shot. So, and then since then, we've tried it again, but and then COVID hit, and then the March for Life went virtual 2 years ago, and we didn't get around to doing it last year. But man, oh man, I really want to do this again. I want to try and do it this year, get it right, and then have that type of footage showcasing all the people who are marching for life in Canada.
So yeah, do rest assured that we have every intent of going along our original route. We don't want to be counter-protested, but sometimes it happens, and we want to be able to work with the police to ensure a peaceful and safe march. So I do want to talk about the youth conference now, but before I do, I just want to mention that in case you recognize Maeve, it might be because you've seen some of her videos on Instagram or on TikTok. So if you're not already following CLC Youth Pro-Life on our social media platforms, please do so at CLC Youth Pro-Life. Now, Maeve, can you tell us a little bit more about our plans for the youth conference this year?
Absolutely. This year, our youth conference may look a little different than in years past. With the current restrictions in place, we are required to weigh all of our options to ensure the best and most immersive experience for Canada's next generation of pro-life leaders. Our youth conference has traditionally been held on the day following the National March for Life on Parliament Hill, but this year we are considering alternate dates. There is the possibility of holding our youth conference on May 11th in the afternoon prior to our candlelight vigil. This change could draw more young people to attend our beautiful vigil in the evening following the conference. We are also vouching for an in-person event this year, possibly even holding the event outdoors, opposed to the solely virtual youth conference we held last year. Regardless of how the youth conference may look this year, our goal remains the same: to motivate and inspire young people to defend all human life from conception to natural death across the nation. And we hope to see you all there.
Thanks, Maeve, for that. And thank you to the wonderful young people who are part of the youth committee for the National March for Life. We're about to announce the theme for this year. But before we do, we just want to bring back Debbie Duval to give us an overview of what people can expect in Ottawa on May the 12th. So Debbie, what can people expect?
Well, thanks, Matt. It's very exciting what people can expect, and I can't wait to the big announcement of the theme. I love all the events during the Pro-Life Week, but the big day is Thursday, May 12th, and that is our 25th National March for Life, and I'm excited for this year's in-person march. As usual, you know, the rally will begin around 12:30 on the Hill, and then we'll march through the streets of downtown Ottawa following that, and often it's around 1:30. And as you know, Matt, we have a great working relationship with Parliament Hill Security and the Ottawa Police, and we have had for years, so we'll be working with them again this year. Last year was a very different type of march and rally, as was mentioned before. It was smaller, intimate. I love the grassroots feel. And actually, I was speaking to someone who was at the very first March for Life, and they said it had a very similar feel. Anyway, it worked really, really well, and I loved it. In some of the videos I think you've shown is our beautiful rose laying ceremony. We laid 300 roses. That's the amount of babies killed each day in Canada, in front of the flame on Parliament Hill, and it was just really moving. Anyway, with all of that said, we sure do miss the big crowds, you know. I really hope to see everyone again. And I'd really like to encourage everyone to start the big planning. Take the day off work, get your travel plans made, talk to your family and friends, your church community, and let's bring back the masses to the Hill like there has been in years past. Like if you look at the last couple of years, there's been many demonstrations on Parliament Hill for all kinds of reasons. There was Black Lives Matter, climate protests, anti-lockdown protests. Tens of thousands of people were using their right to freedom of expression and assembly to send a message to the Prime Minister and Parliament. That's what we're doing. We're calling all pro-lifers to come back to Parliament Hill and demand that life be protected in all its stages. Because life is the first and most important right. And during the lockdowns, babies continued to be killed by abortion. Euthanasia numbers skyrocketed. Euthanasia laws were totally expanded. Legislatures across the country have been passing anti-life speech and bubble zone laws. The federal government wants to strip pro-life charities and pregnancy care centers of their charity status. All the while, they're continuing to fund abortion groups like Planned Parenthood, Marie Stopes International, to expand abortion across over the seas, at the cost to us of hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Anyway, we really need your voice on Parliament Hill, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Debbie, for that update on the National March for Life. And I couldn't agree with you more. There are so many reasons why people need to march for life. We need to come together in Ottawa and demand that our politicians and those making the laws defend and protect and ensure that there is legal protection for every human being from the moment of fertilization until natural death. So like Debbie said, please mark it down in your calendars, May the 12th, save the date, start getting ready, start spreading the news, and we can't wait to see you there.
So now the moment we have been waiting for, the announcement of our 2022 theme for our 25th National March for Life. Let's roll the video.
I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
For 25 years, the National March for Life has been the nation's premier pro-life event.
I am choosing life for my baby.
Uniting hundreds of thousands of Canadians in Ottawa and around the nation who stand for life, while challenging our legislators to enact legal protection for Canada's most vulnerable.
I am deserving of assisted living, not assisted death.
On May 12th, Canadians will gather peacefully on Parliament Hill for a rally and march through the streets of Ottawa in defense of life at all stages.
I am deserving of care until my natural end.
The National March for Life.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
Because existence is always enough.
I am. I am is the theme of this year's National March for Life. I am speaks to the baby in the womb who is, who exists. I am speaks to the mother and child who exist, who need to be protected and uplifted to choose life. I am the person with special needs who needs to be accompanied, who needs to be assisted with life, supported, encouraged, loved. And I am the elderly, the sick, the vulnerable, those people who are being told by society that they don't matter anymore, that we don't want them. They exist and they have value up until the moment of their natural death. I really love this theme. I'm very excited for it. There's a lot we can do with this theme. And Josie, why don't you give everyone a bit of an explanation on some of these sub-themes and just the process of how we came up with this year's theme.
Thanks, Matt. So I also really love this year's theme. And the past few years, we've chosen biblical scriptural themes. I am is obviously very broad, very meta, but it's the name of God revealed to Moses and the Hebrews when he was freeing them from slavery. And it is very relevant today because we are also in bondage. We are in bondage to the culture of death, and we need to be liberated from sin. And so the name of God has so much power. And so we invoke it in calling for freedom in Canada. And one thing that Angelina Steenstra, the national coordinator of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, is fond of advising post-abortive men and women is that they should name the child that they lost. So I am, is the name of God. It reminds us that we're all also made in the image and likeness of God, and that we're all unique individuals. And he knows us when he formed us in the womb. And we need to be reminded that, even though there's been over 4 million abortions since 1969, when abortion was decriminalized, each of those abortions were of a unique individual who was deprived existence. We don't know them. And this is a precious person. Each of them, again, their names are known at least by God, and we were deprived of them. I am also speaks to the fact that they exist, as Matt was talking about. It's a shout from the abyss that I am here, notice me. Because we know with abortion advocates, they often don't acknowledge the preborn whatsoever. They'll refer to the pregnancy and getting rid of the pregnancy, which is super ambiguous and vague. Even our criminal code refuses to provide legal acknowledgement of the preborn prior to birth. So I am, it's not just about the preborn either. It challenges us to see the vulnerable, to not neglect them or to shove them in the corner and hope that they'll disappear. We must recognize all of our fellow human beings. And also, I am is just a claim to worth and value. We don't have to do anything to earn that value, to earn our rights. Our value is inherent. Your life matters because you are you, that you exist at all. So I think I am, it works on multiple levels. Please let us know in the chat what you think of our theme, I am. What does it mean to you? I really look forward to hearing from our speakers, from religious leaders, about their interpretations of this theme. So I hope that you are as inspired as I am to see where it'll take us for this year's 25th National March for Life.
Thank you for that, Josie, and for explaining the theme and why it matters. And again, if this theme resonates with you, and if you want to share your story, share maybe a witness, and write it down in the chat, send us an email, let us know how this theme resonates with you. It's not even a question anymore of whether it's a human being or not. It is from the moment of fertilization. We know this. Science acknowledges this. The human being is a human being from the moment of conception. They exist, and the world needs to accept it. And our laws need to reflect that reality. So on May the 12th, join us in Marching for Life, in declaring the theme, I am, to our elected officials, to the world, to the media, to anyone willing to listen.
So as we've been discussing during this announcement of our theme, this is our 25th National March for Life. Not necessarily a milestone that we would want to celebrate, because of course, we don't want to have to march for an end to abortion. We kind of want to march, I guess, in celebration, if anything. But nonetheless, we are here. And as part of our lead up to the March for Life, to promote it, to encourage everyone to attend, we are doing a series called 25 Years of Marching for Life, where we're going to go over the best speakers, the best March moments from this past quarter of a century. So that's going to begin in March. Definitely follow us on social media. Make sure you subscribe to updates on marchforlife.ca so you can see all of those highlights. It's going to be very, very special. So once again, that will be happening in March, 50 days leading up to the National March for Life in Ottawa on Parliament Hill. Now over to you, Matt, to wrap things up.
Thank you, Josie. This year is a very special year. 25 years since we started the March for Life. We have a wonderful theme, I am. There are so many reasons in Canada why we need to march for life. And of course, why we need to pray more than ever for an end to abortion, for the conversion of hearts of all people, including our own. Once again, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Maeve. Thank you, Josie, for everyone who helped prepare this video presentation. And thank you to you, the viewers who watched and participated. And we cannot wait to see all of you back again marching for life in Ottawa. Be sure to go to marchforlife.ca. You can subscribe to our email newsletter. We will be sending out more and more communications as the march approaches, giving you updates, releasing the schedule, announcing the speakers for the various events. And of course, you can watch everything on marchforlife.ca, but as well as youtube.com/marchforlifecanada. And with that said, see you in Ottawa on May the 12th, and let the countdown begin. Take care and God bless.
I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
For 25 years, the National March for Life has been the nation's premier pro-life event.
I am choosing life for my baby.
Uniting hundreds of thousands of Canadians in Ottawa and around the nation who stand for life, while challenging our legislators to enact legal protection for Canada's most vulnerable.
I am deserving of assisted living, not assisted death.
On May 12th, Canadians will gather peacefully on Parliament Hill for a rally and march through the streets of Ottawa in defense of life at all stages.
I am deserving of care until my natural end.
The National March for Life.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
Because existence is always enough.